Welcome to A Drink of Wisdom with Jay Wise and Nathan Drinkard. I'm your host, Cody Ward. Thank you for spending some of your time with us tonight. And as a reminder to all our listeners, besides being on all your favorite podcast platforms, A Drink of Wisdom is also on YouTube with each segment available. Head on over, and if you like what you hear, I would appreciate your subscription. What's going on, guys? Feels like a million days since we last talked, but it's only been 7 according to the calendar. How you doing?
Yeah, pretty good considering. Much needed break from you'd already know what it is. We don't even need to talk about it. A lot of good action in the world of football to get to, and let's go ahead and do it, y'all.
Let's talk some sports, baby. I'm with you, Cody. Ben, it does feel like it's been a while, but you know what it is. We got to speak. Pull up a seat. You know what it is. Let's go, baby.
All right, on episode 13, the Cardinals look good, the Vikings do not. We preview the biggest weekend matchups in the NFL and college football. We'll begin tonight with a Thursday night football thrashing as the Green Bay Packers pack the 49ers en route to a 34-17 victory. Aaron Rodgers helped shake the funk of last week's loss to Minnesota with a brilliant performance, throwing for 305 yards and 4 touchdowns. It's probably worth pointing out that the 49ers had quite a skeleton crew out there, decimated by injuries and COVID protocols. Most of the starting offense was missing, along with many players on the defense. The win will keep the Packers near the top of the NFC, while the 49ers slip closer to calling a mulligan on the whole season. So, Jay, is there anything you can take away from a lopsided game like this?
Yeah, yes, there is. First off, I must say, I don't know about you fellas, but I did not even realize there was a game last night. Because of you can't even call it election day anymore. It's election week.
It is.
It's election week, yeah. So based on that, it was literally about 7:45 last night. I was like, oh yeah, it's a game. I should make a pick and throw it on in the chat. So we did that. But then when you look at this game, the actual what happened last night, it's about to be expected. I think I expected it to be a bit more competitive. It was not. But yeah, when you talk about a team that's decimated, San Francisco, I mean, it's almost unfair what has happened to these guys. I mean, you got your quarterback, off the cuff, in and out in the lineup. He was back out again, so you're left with the one and only Nick Mullins. But then you look at running backs. I mean, Raheem Mostert, Tevin Coleman, Jeff Wilson, all have been fairly productive when they play. I talked about the lack of depth at receiver. Deebo Samuel, Kendrick Bourne, Brandon Ayuk, all out last night. And then the best tight end in football, George Kittle, is out, and he's going to be out for a while. It's a wonder. And then that on top of that, that doesn't even include some of the defensive injuries we've seen. You throw Nick Bosa in there, Richard Sherman. It is a wonder this team was 4-4 entering last night's game, including some real thrashings, including just 1 week ago what they did to the New England Patriots. They destroyed the New England Patriots primarily with their ability to run the football. But last night it was too much to ask. They got abused. The final score isn't even indicative of how this went down. Green Bay was up 31-3 after 3 quarters. Aaron Rodgers. And that, look, pretty much, by the way, San Francisco, that's pretty much the only takeaway for them. Too many injuries, too much to ask. They appear to be done. That doesn't mean they won't win some more games. Maybe they get some guys back in the lineup. But that when you combine the lack of injury fortune they've had with the strength of that division, best division in football, it's not even close. But it's too much to ask. They appear to be done. I think we can go ahead and call that one. On the other side, Green Bay, well done. I mean, they took advantage of a team that they didn't have anybody. So the Green Bay Packer defense, they had a relatively good night. They did some good things against the run. Also another injury, got Trent Williams. Trent Williams was on the COVID list, I believe. He did not play. You throw that one in there as well. And hopefully that's the last one. I think that's the last one I forgot to throw in there.
Sure, there's more.
There may be more, but some of these things, all of those, all of those are significant. But back to Green Bay again. The defense showed up. I mean, they showed up against nobody, so they had to perform. It would have been ridiculous if they hadn't have. Aaron Rodgers is on another level right now. Devontae Adams, he is also playing at another level. This is to me right now, off my head, this is the best quarterback wide receiver duo going in football right now. That is what I believe. And it is a wonder that that's happening because Green Bay appears to me, and I'm not knocking them. They're a 6-2 team. They've done a lot of good things so far, but they appear to be, pretty much the same team as last year. The only difference for me is Aaron Rodgers is having an absolutely sensational season. He is playing at an MVP level. But when you look around him, they appear to be the same. You have Devontae Adams, but outside of him, we got questions. Marquez Valdes-Scantling caught 2 touchdowns last night. But outside of him, you have Allen Lazard. He's done some good things when he's been in the lineup. But you don't appear to have a whole lot in the receiving game at tight end. The offensive line, don't forget, you lost Brian Bulaga. Rick Wagner's in there doing a relatively decent job. You still have David Bakhtiari. He's doing well at left tackle. The running backs are fine. Aaron Jones, Jamal Williams, that's a duo you can't ignore. The big concern, though, is defensively. Drink has talked about this at length of how soft they appear to be. And when you go back just 1 week ago to their game against Minnesota, that was very telling what happened to them. And you can't ignore it. Dalvin Cook punished them. Dalvin Cook, about 150 yards on the ground, 3 touchdowns, and then about 50, 60 receiving yards, including about a 50-yard screen pass that he went on. Minnesota wins that game 28-22, and it was all about Dalvin Cook. Dalvin Cook had all 4 touchdowns, and we know how lackluster Minnesota's been. So that's a red flag to me if you look at Green Bay. They appear to be the same team that they were last year. I got questions about them defending the run. I got questions about the rest of their receiving core. But I will tell you this. I don't have any questions about Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers right now, folks, we're exactly at the halfway point. So we can project at this pace, Aaron Rodgers is going to throw for 4,500 yards. And if he continues this ridiculous pace, this man's going to throw for 48 touchdowns and 4 picks. He's at 24-2 right now. Think about how ridiculous that is. This man, and I'm going to go back to the draft. I'm going to go there. This man is making the Green Bay Packers front office look like complete fools for wasting a draft pick on Jordan Love. You don't think you could have benefited from maybe drafting another receiver to help out? You don't think the defensive –
No, they playing pretty well without one. So clearly they don't think they could benefit from another one.
You don't think the defensive line could have benefited for another body up front to help defend against the running game? These are the questions I've got. Now, on the flip side, Aaron Rodgers at this level of play can carry you to a title. He can do that. We don't know if this can continue. We saw last year. We thought Aaron Rodgers last year was beginning. It was the beginning of the decline that inevitably occurs with every player. But that decline is no more. This is something I didn't see coming. I don't know if y'all saw it coming. This is arguably perhaps the best he's played. I think you give Matt LaFleur perhaps a little bit of credit in that second year of the system. I think he deserves a little credit for that. But in the big picture down the line, if he does not play this well, I don't think Green Bay is good enough, and I don't think they're complete enough to make it to the Super Bowl. When you look at perhaps a team like the Saints, when you look at Seattle, maybe Tampa, these are the other teams we're looking at right now in the NFC. A physical team, I think Tampa perhaps would probably be Tampa Bay and New Orleans. I think they're more physical than Green Bay. And we remember what a full-powered San Francisco 49er did to them last year. They did it twice. They beat them up at the line of scrimmage. That's my question with Green Bay moving forward. Can they be more physical?
What stood out for me last night, listen, here's the deal. Jaden already said it. The 49ers, listen, that poor team out here looking like a scene from a World War II movie. I mean, it's bodies everywhere. Just like, what do you want them to do? So we can't beat them back. We can't beat them down too bad. They showed up with the personnel that they had. They probably 2 injuries away from forfeiting games, and I ain't talking about just because of COVID. So with that said, shouts out to the 49ers. Thank you for coming. better luck next week. But I will say this. On a good note for the 49ers, what I did like seeing last night was I seen some continuity between Nick Mullins and his name was something James, number
Richard
13
James.
or whatnot, Richard James. I like seeing what they had going on. Listen, the 49ers was not going to win this game. We knew they weren't going to win this game. But when you know you're not going to win a game, usually you work on some things that you can package up and use in the future. And I thought in that little short instance, that's what the 49ers was doing. Listen, Shanahan was like, hey, I'm closing down the offensive playbook. We ain't wasting this no more. Hey, just go ahead and go out there, sprinkle a little of this, sprinkle a little of that. And I like what I seen out of Richard James and Nick Mullins. So that's something to look at for the future. And that's pretty much it for the 49ers. So let's move it on. The Packers. So, you know, Jay been pretty adamant about this. You go out here, you draft a quarterback, and then not only do you draft a quarterback, you draft a running back that you already had 2 top shelf running backs in that backfield. You go draft an additional running back. And I'm with Jay with this. This franchise was pretty questionable with their offseason moves and the way they drafted. But now as I sit here and I look back at it, don't get me wrong. Now you got a quarterback that's not going to play, which can be a good thing or a bad thing because we didn't see first-round quarterbacks not play, and it can go either way. We don't know. We'll see. Right now, it seems like it'll be a cold day in hell before Jordan Love touched the field. But we'll see. Aaron Rodgers get hurt at any moment, and then here we go. Gates wide open, right? So I bring that up to bring this up. Right now, it seems to me that Green Bay might be in sort of a win-win because as much as we want to beat them up and say, hey, you guys should have took a wide receiver in the first round, but instead you took a quarterback. It don't seem like it's hurting them as bad because you got to remember, Aaron Rodgers have yet to play with a full complement of his receivers. That's Scantling, that's Lazard, that's Adams. That, you know what I'm saying? And, you know, sprinkle in the tight end. He hasn't been able to play with all those guys. So I think coming the coming weeks, those guys are going to come back. Lazard's going to come back. We seen Scantling last night. We seen Adams last night. When he gets the full repertoire with those running backs, with Williams and Jones, I don't think wide receiver would be the problem for them. I really don't. I just think they're going to need to tie it together, and they're going to need to finish it out. The problem is, can you score enough points on the board because your defense can't stop a nosebleed when it comes to the run game? That's their biggest problem. Like, can Aaron Rodgers get us out of here with a shootout? Because we ain't stopping nobody over here. We just over here, secondary over here doing their thing, celebrating, and the ball getting ran right up the middle. The middle softer than baby poop. Like, that's what you got to ask yourself if you're Green Bay leadership at this point. Like, in the future, once this year is over, because I think it's going to be very hard to make it to the Super Bowl, possible, but hard to make it to the Super Bowl without being able to stop the run. You got to ask yourself, in the offseason, we have to do something to stop this run because we can't just put all this on our aging superstar quarterback to sit here and get us out of shootouts. He shouldn't have to do that, and we shouldn't do that. We shouldn't put that on him. With that said, I would say this year in the NFC, though, is not as it was last year. Like last year, just like Jay said, in the season, I was saying, yo, Green Bay too soft. Listen, this ain't going to cut it. I think this year, however, it could cut it, if that makes sense. Because the NFC, you cannot give me one team that don't have a major flaw to them in the NFC. Like a major Super Bowl championship flaw. Like, we talk about the Saints. Jay said it earlier. Do Drew Brees got enough arm strength to get the ball down the field consistently to beat teams over the top? Don't seem that way. You got Michael Thomas coming back for his second game of the season. Really his first game of the season because when he got hurt in the first game, he didn't play many snaps. So you got Michael Thomas coming back. We got to see how all that worked. Seattle. Defense, You talking to me about defense? Like Seattle, another Super Bowl contender team. Don't look like they defense really up to par either. You know what I mean? And the list goes on and on. So I do feel like Green Bay can possibly make it back to the NFC Championship again with this soft, run stopping defense that they have. But now you're gonna have to ask Aaron Rodgers to do something similar to what you asked him to do last year. Hey, we can't stop the run, but you think you score enough points to outdo San Francisco? This year will be somebody different, but you think you could outdo them, and he couldn't do it. So I think that's the puzzling part. I'm not really mad at the fact that they drafted a quarterback and not used them, because I done seen too many facts of teams drafting quarterbacks and not using them, and it end up benefiting them when that quarterback that they have at the time either fall out of his prime or don't want to be there no more, whatever the case might be. Now you got a guy good and groomed up on the bench ready to go. I am mad that they didn't take the opportunity to draft better defensive pieces. That's why I agree with Jay the most. Like, you should have been able to at least stiffen up the middle of your defense so you make other teams think about not running the ball. Right now, that's not what's happening. You seen San Francisco, they're like, hey, we don't know none of these dudes, but we're going to run them anyway and just see if Green Bay can stop them. We do know, we found out last night, Green Bay can stop practice team players. That did happen, but they, when they're playing real NFL teams, you can get that out of here. So I'm with Jay on that. We didn't learn anything about San Francisco last night. Everything was about Green Bay, but it's very hard to take anything from this game because you had an NFL team and an XFL team last night.
I just want to make one more point on Jordan Love. Aaron Rodgers at this level, and it's hard to project him over the next, X amount of years. If this continues and he's going to play like this, Jordan Love will never play a meaningful snap for this team.
No. I guarantee he play a meaningful snap. Listen, Joe Montana, this happened to Joe Montana. Like, he was the best thing since sliced bread. This thing happened. Like, what I mean is anything can happen, i.e., next year Aaron Rodgers can go and demanding something crazy. Oh, I want this, I want that. And then Green Bay like, okay, cool, we'll trade you away. But, don't get me wrong. And Aaron Rodgers is playing out of his mind. But to say, even if he keep this pace up, I do think we're going to see Jordan Love on the field. We don't see him on the field this year. Totally understandable. But I think next year we will see him on the field, and either it's going to be in cleanup duty of Aaron Rodgers or it's going to be the heir apparent to Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah, I mean, on that, I guess we'll start on that subject real quick. I look at it as it's not a very smart investment if you're going to draft a guy. Like, if you're going to draft a guy like that, you would burn a much later draft pick where it's not nearly as consequential. I mean, a first-round pick, like, if you're not getting any value of your first-round pick, if they're just sitting on the bench, like, even if Jordan Love's good, like, you're losing so much value by having him just sit around for 2 or 3 years and only coming in a couple backup games. I mean, the whole value of drafting a quarterback in the first round is, hey, I got 5 years, or I got you, and you're way cheaper than what you're going to be when you get the old Patrick Mahomes treatment or whatever else, So I feel like if Aaron Rodgers is playing like this, I would have sold out. I would have said, Aaron, what do you want, man? We'll go get it. Just you name it. You point to the draft board, and I'll make it happen. So. But I guess, it is something you're always looking at the future, and maybe that's what they were seeing. But I think that Drake's point of the later in the draft is almost as egregious as the first round pick. But a couple quick thoughts from last night. The one thing I do honestly like, but what's fun about this COVID and all these injuries is you're seeing a bunch of guys you would never see otherwise. This Richie James guy goes out and has a 184-yard game. I mean, he was a seventh round pick of the year before. He probably hadn't gotten a lot of snaps, but he got to go out there and tear it up last night, and he may get a job somewhere else because of it. I mean, there's a lot of these guys that are getting thrown into the ringer and just kind of getting to play that you would never see. So I guess if there's nothing else, that's kind of a fun takeaway. But the 49ers, if you look at this, one of the things you have to think about is, all right, Nick Mullins he was all right. He had some ups and he had some downs, but he wasn't great a week or two ago when he played, and Jimmy G's in and out. What is the future of the quarterback position for the team? I mean, they've got 7 more games. if you think Jimmy G is still your franchise guy and the season's kind of kaput anyway, are you going to put him back in? I mean, their schedule coming up is pretty brutal. I mean, they got that first place schedule. They got the Saints, Rams, Bills, and they get 2 NFC East games, so that's nice.
Yeah, it's
Cardinals,
over for them.
Seahawks. So it's over. I mean, you're going to win 6 or 7 games, so you're going to be drafted in the middle of the first round. You're not going to have the top tier talent. So I think the Niners have a lot of interesting things to go forward with.
So, quick question, just on topic to our preseason picks. Do we think now the 49ers is going to be the floor mat of the NFC West Conference? Division?
I think with how the rest of these teams are playing,
Are you just asking for this year?
I'm just in general, because you know how we were saying the Rams probably going to be the team that gets stepped all over in that division.
Yeah,
have they passed that
Rams
on to the
5-3.
49ers?
I think the Rams have outperformed my expectations so far, and because of the injuries, catastrophic injuries that the 49ers have suffered, I think the 49ers are going to be – it's going to be tough for – based on the way as well as these other teams are playing, it's hard to imagine another team slipping down below them, even though I do think the Rams are overperforming. I could see them slide back a little bit.
Yeah, I would agree. I think that the injuries someone's got to be at the bottom, and guess what? It's going to be you since you're missing 9 starters. So the only thing I'd say for San Francisco is a little concerning is Javon Kinlaw that has had plenty of opportunities with these other guys being out, and he really hasn't showed up. He was kind of a no-show again last night. He had 3 tackles, no sacks, no quarterback pressures, no nothing. And I know it wasn't a great night, but that's kind of become a little bit of a concerning trend with a guy that you took 13th overall to get going. You would like to see that in the second half of the season, and for the Packers, y'all pretty much hit it on the head down the line here. I think that they're a really good team. Kenny Clark has been in and out of the lineup, so the run defense that's could possibly explain it, but that's going to be a big problem. But I think y'all are right. When we talk about the NFC, it has all these teams at the top that are pretty good, but everyone's got like this big problem, and the only team that Green Bay has really convincingly been like, all right, we're here, we're on the map, is the Saints. They beat the Saints 37-30 in week 3, but the rest of these teams they beat are just, they're all right, or they've had problems. So you could equally look at the Buccaneers game and go, oh boy, that's so I think that they're going to be a bit of a mystery down the stretch. But as good as Aaron Rodgers is playing, you've got to think this team is a contender, in the NFC, and they've kind of solidified that in their rest of this schedule. They're going to walk into the playoffs at 13-3 or something like that. So see how it goes.